What happens when Hollywood's most beloved nice guy finally reaches his breaking point? What happens when the cameras are rolling, the audience is watching, and a talk show host pushes too far? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that nobody saw coming. The heated clash that ended with Keanu Reeves walking off the Drew Barrymore Show, leaving everyone in stunned silence. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is the moment when kindness met cruelty, when respect collided with exploitation, and when one of Hollywood's most genuine stars said, "Enough is enough." Clapperboard, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story will completely change how you see daytime television. Movie camera. The green room at the Drew Barrymore Show buzzed with its usual pre-show energy. Keanu Reeves sat quietly in the corner, dressed in his signature black suit, methodically reviewing his talking points for what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview for his latest film. The veteran actor had done hundreds of these appearances over the decades, always maintaining his reputation as one of the most gracious and professional guests in the business. He never demanded special treatment, never threw tantrums, and always showed up prepared, with genuine enthusiasm for the conversation ahead. "Mr. Reeves, we're ready for you," called out a young production assistant, her voice slightly trembling with the nervous excitement that came with working around A-list celebrities. Keanu looked up with that familiar warm smile, the one that had melted hearts in countless romantic comedies and action blockbusters alike. "Thank you. I appreciate it," he replied, his voice carrying that distinctive calm cadence that had become his trademark. He stood up, straightened his jacket, and followed the assistant down the brightly lit hallway toward the studio. The walls were lined with promotional photos from previous shows, smiling faces of celebrities who had graced Drew's couch over the years. Keanu had always respected Drew as a performer, remembering her work from their early days in the industry, when they were both young actors trying to make their mark. The studio audience was already warmed up, their energy palpable as they chatted among themselves in anticipation. Drew Barrymore stood behind the curtain, but something was different about her demeanor today. Gone was the usual bubbly enthusiasm that had made her America's sweetheart. Instead, there was a calculated intensity in her eyes, a predatory gleam that suggested she had something more than a friendly interview in mind. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable Keanu Reeves," Drew announced as she bounded onto the stage, her signature smile plastered across her face. The audience erupted in applause as Keanu emerged from behind the curtain, waving modestly and taking his place on the familiar talk show couch. He settled in comfortably, crossing one leg over the other and folding his hands in his lap, the picture of relaxed professionalism. "Keanu, thank you so much for being here today," Drew began, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "I have to say, you look absolutely fantastic. You know, I've been thinking about this interview for weeks, and I realize there are so many things about you that people don't really know. So many secrets hiding behind that mysterious smile of yours." Keanu's eyebrows raised slightly, a subtle indication that he was picking up on something unusual in her tone. "Well, I don't know about secrets, Drew. I've always tried to be pretty open about my life and my work. That's what these interviews are for, right? To connect with people who enjoy the films." Drew leaned forward, her eyes narrowing almost imperceptibly. "Oh, but Keanu, surely you know that's not entirely true. I mean, let's be honest here. You've built this whole persona, this image of being the humble, down-to-earth guy who rides motorcycles and gives his money away. But we both know that's all carefully crafted publicity, don't we?" The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing that something was off about the usual friendly banter they expected from Drew's show. Keanu's smile faltered for just a moment, replaced by a look of genuine confusion. "I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at," he replied, his voice still measured and polite. "I don't think I've ever pretended to be anything other than what I am. I work hard. I try to treat people with respect, and I do my best to make films that entertain people. If that comes across as publicity, then I suppose I'm doing something wrong." Drew's laugh was sharp and hollow, lacking any genuine warmth. "Oh, come on, Keanu. You can drop the act with me. We're both industry veterans here. We know how this game works. You've been playing the same character for 30 years. The mysterious loner with the heart of gold. But what's it really like behind the scenes? What's it like when the cameras aren't rolling and you don't have to put on the show?" The tension in the studio was becoming palpable. Keanu shifted slightly in his seat, his jaw tightening as he processed what was happening. This wasn't the friendly promotional interview he had agreed to. This was something else entirely. Something that felt more like an ambush than a conversation. "Drew, I'm not putting on a show," he said, his voice still calm, but with an edge of steel creeping in. "This is who I am. I've never claimed to be perfect, and I've never tried to hide my flaws. But I also don't appreciate being accused of being fake or manipulative. That's not fair to me, and it's not fair to your audience who came here expecting something different." Drew's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it, only a predatory satisfaction. "Fair? Oh, Keanu, since when has this industry ever been about fair? You've made millions of dollars playing variations of the same character, and now you want to talk about fairness? Let's talk about fairness to all the actors who never got the opportunities you got, because you were busy hogging the spotlight with your manufactured mystique." The audience was now noticeably uncomfortable. Some people whispering to each other, others looking around as if hoping someone would intervene. This was clearly not what they had expected when they came to tape a daytime talk show. Keanu's hands, which had been resting calmly in his lap, slowly clenched into fists. "I think there might be some misunderstanding here," he said, his voice still controlled, but with a warning undertone. "I've never hogged any spotlight. I've always been grateful for the opportunities I've had, and I've tried to use whatever platform I've been given to do good work and support causes I believe in. I'm not sure what's brought this on, but I don't think this is the conversation your audience came here to see." Drew stood up abruptly, pacing behind her desk like a prosecutor preparing for the kill. "Oh, but this is exactly the conversation they need to see. They need to see what happens when someone finally calls out the facade. They need to see that their beloved Keanu Reeves is just another Hollywood actor who's been fooling everyone for decades." The camera operators exchanged worried glances, unsure whether to keep rolling or cut to commercial. The show's producer, visible in the wings, was frantically gesturing, but Drew seemed oblivious to everyone except her target on the couch. "You know what I think, Keanu?" she continued, her voice rising with each word. "I think you're terrified. Terrified that people will find out that behind all that Zen philosophy and motorcycle riding, you're just as insecure and desperate as the rest of us. The difference is you've gotten really good at hiding it." Keanu stood up slowly, his movements deliberate and controlled. The audience fell completely silent, sensing that they were witnessing something unprecedented. "Drew, I don't know what this is about, but I'm not going to sit here and let you attack me for reasons I don't understand. I came here to talk about my film, to connect with people who might enjoy it. I didn't come here to be ambushed or insulted." Drew's eyes flashed with something that looked almost like triumph. "There it is," she said, pointing at him dramatically. "There's the real Keanu Reeves. Not so zen now, are you? Not so above it all when someone actually challenges you instead of just fawning over your manufactured image." The confrontation was escalating rapidly, and everyone in the studio could feel the electricity in the air. This wasn't just a disagreement between two celebrities. This was something much more personal and much more dangerous. Keanu's famous composure was being tested in ways it had never been tested before, and the cameras were capturing every moment of it. Keanu took a deep breath, his hands now visibly shaking with restrained anger. The mask of Hollywood politeness was beginning to crack, revealing something raw and authentic underneath. "Drew, I honestly don't know what I've done to deserve this treatment. If you have some personal issue with me, perhaps we should discuss it privately rather than turning your show into a public execution." Drew circled back to her chair, but didn't sit down, instead gripping the back of it like a weapon. "Personal issue? Oh, Keanu, this isn't personal. This is professional. This is about integrity in an industry that's built on lies and manipulation. You've been the poster boy for authenticity for so long that people have forgotten what real authenticity looks like. And you think real authenticity looks like ambushing a guest on your show?" Keanu shot back, his voice rising for the first time. "You think it looks like making accusations without any basis, attacking someone's character for entertainment? If that's your version of authenticity, then I want nothing to do with it." The audience was now completely silent, some people covering their mouths in shock. This was unlike anything they had ever seen on daytime television. Drew's producer was making increasingly frantic gestures from the wings, but she seemed to be feeding off the chaos she was creating. "You want to talk about basis?" Drew laughed bitterly. "Let's talk about the basis. Let's talk about how you've never once given a truly honest interview. How you deflect every personal question with some philosophical nonsense about the nature of existence. How you've turned being mysterious into a brand that's made you millions while actual honest actors struggle to get work. Keanu's face was now flushed with anger, a stark contrast to his usual pale complexion. You're talking about honest interviews? You're talking about authenticity? What's honest about this? What's authentic about attacking someone who came here in good faith to promote their work and connect with people? Drew slammed her hand down on the desk, the sound echoing through the studio like a gunshot. Good faith. Good faith. You came here to sell your movie, to manipulate people's emotions so they'll spend their money on another Keanu Reeves fantasy. Don't pretend this is about connecting with people. This is about profit, pure and simple. Every actor promotes their work, Keanu said, his voice now carrying a dangerous edge. That's part of the job. But there's a difference between promotion and manipulation. There's a difference between sharing your work and exploiting people's trust. You're exploiting your audience right now, Drew. You're using them as witnesses to your personal vendetta. Drew's eyes flashed with something that looked almost maniacal. Personal vendetta? You think this is personal? You think I care enough about you personally to have a vendetta? This is about principle, Keanu. This is about calling out the hypocrisy that's been staring us all in the face for decades. What hypocrisy? Keanu demanded, finally losing his composure completely. What exactly are you accusing me of? Being polite? Being professional? Trying to maintain some privacy in an industry that wants to devour every aspect of your personal life. If that's hypocrisy, then I'm guilty as charged. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of the unprecedented meltdown. Drew's makeup was beginning to smudge from the intensity of her performance, and her hair was disheveled from her aggressive pacing. She looked more like a prosecutor in a courtroom than a talk show host. Privacy? She scoffed. You call it privacy. I call it calculation. You've calculated exactly how much of yourself to reveal to maintain the mystique. You've calculated how much vulnerability to show to seem human without actually being human. You've turned emotion into a commodity, and you've sold it to millions of people who think they know you. Keanu stood up from the couch, his tall frame towering over the studio set. You don't know anything about me, Drew. You don't know about my losses, my struggles, my genuine attempts to live a decent life in an indecent industry. You don't know about the times I've helped people without cameras around. The times I've given money without press releases. The times I've shown up for people when they needed someone and asked for nothing in return. Oh, here we go. Drew said, rolling her eyes dramatically. Here comes the saint routine. Poor Keanu. Always helping people, always being noble. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how rehearsed that sounds? How perfectly crafted for maximum emotional impact. It's not rehearsed, Keanu said, his voice now barely controlled. It's my life. These are things I've actually done. People I've actually helped. I don't talk about them because I don't think they're anyone's business but mine and theirs. But you're standing here accusing me of being fake, so maybe it's time someone heard the truth. Drew moved closer to him, invading his personal space in a way that was clearly designed to provoke the truth. You want to tell the truth, then tell them about the real Keanu Reeves. Tell them about the tantrums behind the scenes. Tell them about the demands you make. Tell them about the people you've stepped on to get where you are. I don't have tantrums, Keanu said, his voice now deadly quiet. I don't make unreasonable demands, and I have never, ever stepped on anyone to advance my career. If you have evidence of any of that, then present it. Otherwise, stop making accusations you can't support. Evidence. Drew laughed harshly. In this industry, you know how this works, Keanu. The evidence gets buried. The stories get suppressed. The NDAs get signed. But the people who work with you know the truth. They know what you're really like when you think no one important is watching. That's a lie, Keanu said, his hands now clenched into fists at his sides. That's a complete and total lie. Ask anyone who's worked with me. Ask the crew members, the other actors, the directors. They'll tell you that I show up on time. I know my lines. I treat everyone with respect, and I do my job to the best of my ability. That's not a persona. That's just who I am. Drew's smile was now completely devoid of warmth, replaced by something cold and calculating. Oh, they'll tell me that, will they? They'll tell me how wonderful you are. Of course they will. They have to. You're Keanu Reeves, the untouchable saint of Hollywood. No one's going to risk their career by telling the truth about you. The tension in the studio was now so thick, it was almost suffocating. The audience members were looking around nervously, some getting up to leave, others staying out of morbid curiosity. The camera operators were still filming, but their hands were shaking as they tried to capture the unprecedented confrontation. You're sick, Keanu said, his voice filled with disgust. You're actually sick if you think that's how the world works. You're projecting your own cynicism onto everyone else. Just because you might operate that way doesn't mean everyone does. Drew's face twisted with rage. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. Don't you dare stand there in your designer suit and your manufactured humility and tell me I'm sick. I'm the only one in this room who's being honest. I'm the only one who's willing to call out the lie that everyone else is too scared or too starstruck to acknowledge. You're not being honest, Keanu said, shaking his head. You're being cruel. There's a difference between honesty and cruelty. And you've crossed that line so far you can't even see it anymore. This isn't about truth. This is about you wanting to tear someone down for your own twisted satisfaction. Drew stepped even closer, her face now inches from his. Twisted satisfaction? You think I'm enjoying this? You think I take pleasure in exposing the truth about Hollywood's biggest fraud? This is necessary, Keanu. Someone has to do it, and it might as well be me. Fraud, Keanu repeated, his voice now filled with incredulous anger. You're calling me a fraud? You're standing here on your own show, ambushing a guest who came here in good faith, making accusations you can't prove, and you're calling me a fraud? Look in the mirror, Drew. Look at what you're doing right now, and tell me who the fraud really is. The confrontation had reached a boiling point, and everyone in the studio could feel that something was about to break. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of the unprecedented clash between two of Hollywood's biggest names. Drew's attack on Keanu's character had pushed him to his limit, and his famous composure was hanging by a thread. Drew's face contorted with a mixture of rage and vindication, as if she believed she had finally broken through Keanu's carefully constructed facade. There it is, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. There's the real Keanu Reeves. Angry, defensive, just like everyone else when someone finally calls them out on their nonsense. How does it feel to have your mask ripped off on national television? Keanu's chest was rising and falling rapidly, his breathing heavy as he struggled to maintain what little composure he had left. You think this is my mask being ripped off? You think this is some revelation? This is what happens when someone decent is pushed beyond their breaking point by someone who's lost all sense of decency. This is what happens when kindness meets cruelty and finally says enough. Drew barked out a laugh that echoed through the stunned studio. You call your calculated public relations campaign kindness? You call your manipulative image management kindness? The only thing you're kind to is your bank account and your ego. The words hit Keanu like physical blows, and something inside him finally snapped. You know what, Drew? You're right about one thing. I am angry. I'm angry that I wasted my time coming here. I'm angry that I believed you were still the same person I knew years ago when we were both just trying to make it in this business. I'm angry that you've become so bitter and twisted that you think attacking people is entertainment. Drew moved even closer, her face now flushed with the excitement of the hunt. Oh, spare me the righteous indignation. You knew exactly what this business was when you got into it. You knew it was about image and manipulation and giving people what they want to see. The only difference is you got really good at pretending otherwise. I didn't pretend anything, Keanu shot back, his voice now raised to match hers. I tried to be authentic in an industry that rewards fakeness. I tried to be genuine in a world full of people like you who think sincerity is just another performance. And, apparently that makes me the fraud. Drew's producer was now frantically waving from the wings, making cutting motions across his throat, but she was completely lost in her assault. Yes, it makes you the fraud, she screamed. Because you've convinced millions of people that you're something you're not. You've made them believe in a version of you that doesn't exist. That's not authenticity. That's the greatest CNJ job in Hollywood history. Keanu's hands were shaking with rage, his usual calm demeanor completely shattered. The greatest con job. You want to know what the greatest con job is? It's you, Drew. It's this show. It's pretending to be America's sweetheart while you're actually a vicious, vindictive person who gets off on tearing people down. It's building a career on being likable while you're actually one of the most unlikable people I've ever encountered. The audience gasped audibly at this. Some people standing up as if to leave, others covering their faces in shock. This had gone far beyond anything they could have imagined when they came to watch a daytime talk show taping. Drew's eyes blazed with fury. Unlikable? Unlikable? At least I'm real, Keanu. At least when people see me, they're seeing the actual person, not some carefully crafted character designed to separate them from their money. At least I don't hide behind some fake philosophy about life and death and the meaning of existence. Fake philosophy. Keanu's voice cracked with emotion. Those aren't fake philosophies, Drew. Those are the thoughts of someone who's actually lived through loss and pain and tragedy. Those are the words of someone who's had to find meaning in a world that can be incredibly cruel. But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? You wouldn't know what it's like to actually suffer instead of just performing suffering for sympathy. Drew's face went white with rage. Don't you dare talk to me about suffering. Don't you dare stand there and lecture me about pain when you've spent your entire career commodifying tragedy. You've turned your personal losses into marketing tools, and you have the audacity to call me fake. That's it, Keanu said, his voice now deadly quiet. That's absolutely it. I will not stand here and let you mock the deaths of people I loved. I will not let you turn my grief into ammunition for your sick little game. You've crossed a line that should never be crossed. And I'm done. He turned toward the edge of the stage, but Drew wasn't finished with him yet. Oh, you're done. You're just going to walk away. That's very convenient, Keanu. Run away when things get too real for you. Run away when someone finally has the courage to tell you the truth about yourself. Keanu stopped and turned back to face her, his eyes now blazing with a fury that was frightening to behold. The truth? You want to know the truth, Drew? The truth is that you're a sad, bitter person who's so miserable with your own life that you have to try to destroy other people to feel better about yourself. The truth is that you've become everything that's wrong with this industry, everything that's toxic and destructive and cruel. Drew's smile was now completely maniacal. And you're everything that's fake about it. You're the lie that people tell themselves to feel better about the ugly reality of show business. You're the fantasy that lets them believe that good people can succeed without compromising their souls. Maybe I am, Keanu said, his voice now calm again, but filled with steel. Maybe I am the fantasy. But if that's true, then what does that make you? What does it say about you that you're so threatened by the possibility of goodness that you have to try to destroy it? The question hung in the air like a challenge, and for the first time in the entire confrontation, Drew seemed momentarily speechless. The studio was so quiet that the hum of the cameras was audible. You know what the real tragedy is here, Drew? Keanu continued, his voice now filled with something that sounded almost like pity. The real tragedy is that you used to be someone worth knowing. You used to be talented and funny and genuine. But somewhere along the way, you became this. You became someone who thinks that tearing people down is the same thing as building yourself up. Drew's face twisted with renewed rage. Don't you dare pity me. Don't you dare stand there and act like you're better than me. We're both products of the same system. We both play the same games, and we both know exactly what we're doing. No, Drew, Keanu said, shaking his head sadly. We don't both know what we're doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to live with integrity in a world that makes it difficult. I'm trying to be honest about who I am while respecting other people's dignity. You're trying to destroy someone for entertainment. Those aren't the same thing. Drew took one final step toward him, her face contorted with pure hatred. Get out, she hissed. Get out of my studio. Get off my show and take your sanctimonious garbage with you. I'm done pretending that you're anything more than a fraud in an expensive suit. Keanu looked at her for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was filled with genuine sadness. You know what, Drew? I feel sorry for you. I genuinely feel sorry for anyone who's become so consumed with bitterness that they can't recognize sincerity when it's standing right in front of them. I hope someday you find whatever it is you're looking for, because this isn't it. He turned and walked toward the edge of the stage, his movements slow and deliberate. The camera followed him as he made his way past the stunned crew members and shocked audience. At the edge of the stage, he paused and turned back one last time. For what it's worth, Drew, I forgive you, he said quietly. I don't understand why you did this, and I don't think it was right, but I forgive you anyway. I hope that means something to you someday. And with that, Keanu Reeves walked off the Drew Barrymore Show, leaving behind a studio full of shocked witnesses and a host whose mask had finally slipped completely. The cameras kept rolling as Drew stood alone on her stage, her chest heaving with exhaustion and rage, the reality of what she had just done beginning to sink in. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud, boo, or simply leave. What they had witnessed wasn't entertainment. It was the complete destruction of two carefully crafted public personas, leaving behind only the raw, ugly truth of what happens when civility breaks down and people show who they really are underneath all the gloss and glamour. That's the story of the day Keanu Reeves walked off the Drew Barrymore Show. The day when Hollywood's nicest guy finally met his match, and someone who mistook cruelty for honesty and destruction for truth. What do you think really drives someone to attack another person so viciously? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on what really happens when the cameras are rolling.